Today has reached a bit of a turning point. I've picked the chassis up from AC shop blasting. We've had it for a while sitting on the trailer, but today it's in the garage for the first time. I've been given some new cardboard, which is nice, because the other stuff was covered in paint and oil and all the awful bits and pieces from its dismantling. But it's quite nice now to get it in the garage and start to think about putting it all together. Here's the powder coated front chassis repair panel I got from Michael Beekhouse at Sports Car Metal in Ivor. That's been again just blasted and powder coated. And that will sit on the front of the chassis here. That probably slides in on that slight return there. Bolts and bolts. Same on the other side, that will slide in there and bolt that on the front. I think I might remove those studs, because I'm thinking the MG Guru suggests replacing these studs with bolts, because once the shock absorber's back on there and the bodywork is over the shock absorber, if it ever needs to come off, there's not enough clearance for the shock absorber to clear the studs. So I think I'm going to take them off and replace them with studs, not studs, bolts. Take the studs off, replace with bolts. I think what I might do is get some nuts welded on the studs and then see if I can maybe wind the studs back in to look like studs with bolts on. But I might just have a play with that. That's where the engine mountings sit. There's the engine. That's going to be done soon. I didn't take the bell housing to the blasters, the ice blasters, because he thought actually he wasn't going to get much more of a clean finish on it than I managed to get with the light degrees. So that's probably I'll just clean the rest of it up here. Again, chassis perhaps not perfect, but this will be under the bodywork, and the body, since it's been welded, has been fitted on the chassis, so we know that's all okay. So I think that'll be fine. They're the new bits we had put on for the wooden floor to sit on. So that's all been coated, and then there we go, it's all come up really nicely. There's one of the new battery boxes, there's the other battery box. Everything's looking rather nice. That's a satin black, so I think again consensus suggests that satin black is perhaps a nicer colour. It's obviously going to show up loads of dents from where the chassis was rusty, but that's all been done. That's where the body will fix on. So it's looking good. Just tipped it up on its side. Obviously been moved around the powder coats a bit there. That hasn't quite been knocked out, but the welder said he's got it as good as he could, so I'm not too worried about that actually. So I'll just give that a bit of paint. Interestingly, tipping it up on its side, I've just had a little bit of sand drop out. So I think what I'm going to do is see if I can stick a tube in a couple of these holes and see if I can just get that little bit of sand out. It's Actually, that's all looking so much better. That's jacked up at the front, a bit of cardboard underneath the cross member. Put a pallet underneath the sides. That's sitting on the wheels of the engine, well, engine support. The thing that holds the engine while you're working on it. Put the wheels under there. So the whole thing can be moved. So that should help. Right, going to get the rest of the powdered coated parts in from Craig. Here's the rear axle, one of them. I'm going to unwrap that, see what it looks like. It's better than Christmas Day. There's the, well, one of the axles. I think that's a banjo axle. I think they call it a banjo axle. But that's been blasted and powder coated. So I'm going to start putting that back together. Oh, that is the old one because it's still got the breather on it. Okay, so that was the one I bought for the half shafts that were in it. Got it on eBay for £10 with the half shafts in it. So that was the one. That's the sort of spare one. Because this is the one that came off the car. So that's the one where the breather's been removed. There. So chances are that's the one that's going to go back on the car. I hope they still come off. So that's going to be great, put everything back on there. That's the steering column. So there's a couple of brackets that go on there, and then the steering wheel goes on the end. So that's come up really nicely. Won't need that for a while. Here's the brake drum. I didn't know if they could do this, but powder coated on the outside, but that, obviously that's been left on the inside. So that's where the brake shoes will, well, I suppose as the brakes come on, they rub on the inside of that drum, so that can't be painted. It's got two of those. Two of those. Inlet manifold and exhaust manifold. Oh, they've been taped, that's good. So those studs will be alright. Okay, this is the box we need. So, shackles for the rear suspension arms. And U-bolts that hold the axle to the leaf springs. I did order some new ones of those, which is why there's so many. And then these things sit in there over the axle. There's the other shackle bolt. We've got two of those. That's the water bottle in the engine. And then these are, well, these hold the clamps that hold the batteries. So they're in there. Another U-bolt. That's probably spare shackle. Only need 2 of those. Another U-bolt. So I was told to use as much of the old stuff as possible, but I thought, why not have the opportunity to get everything done? There's probably another one of them somewhere. Here's a back plate for the axle. So that's the back plate. That actually is a bit that holds the brake, clutch and brake and clutch cylinder in the engine. So that was one. Oh, and here's one of the front wishbone arms. That's actually a new one. You can tell they come painted, but I thought I'd get these done as well. So because they were rounded at the end, I thought I'd replace those. So I had a new one of those. So it looks like that box is now empty. So that's the starting handle. That should actually go round. So that'll need loosening. That should actually be red, but that's fine. I can flatten that down and get that done. And then these floor runners for the chair, the seats were so rusty. It was interesting just to get them blasted, but they're usually sort of chrome. But I thought, just to save them, he's blasted those and undercoated them with a zinc primer. I think I'll reuse those. I'm not fussed if they're grey. That's good. And then we've got the other back plate, which looks alright. You can see it's been very rusty. It's come up alright. You can easily tell the difference between these old arms and the new ones. But who knows? I will probably end up using the new ones. And then these are the old, I don't know what they're called, U-shaped things where the U-shaped bolts hold. They're the old ones versus the new ones. And then we've got the original. Well, I suppose these are the mountings for the bushes, the mounting rubbers. So again, some of these look. That's a bit worn there. It must have been hidden under the rust. I think I might see if I can get away with those actually. If not, I will maybe replace them. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I can get away with those. Who knows? Might be worth replacing those. And then these are the bits where the arms to the shock absorbers link. These all sort of join up underneath each other. Another arm. So there's the four arms, and then these are the 2 new bits for the shackles for the rear springs. So that's all good. And then obviously I've thrown a load of this stuff in. So that's the bit that holds the tyre down, and then that screws down for the tyre. Can't remember what that was, but luckily I've got photographs. Oh, they're the things that hold the rubber hoses for the calipers. 2 of those. That was something to do with the steering. These were the vents that hold the hoses to the air vents. Those hold the batteries in, So I've just seen those clips, they hold the batteries in. 2 of those. Gosh, that could be something to do with the brake and clutch master cylinder, as is that. Looks a bit more pitted than I thought, but who knew how it was going to come up. Various other things, can't remember where that came from. That's something to do with the steering. Here's the clutch and brake pedals. There's the other one. That's probably accelerator or brake, depending how it sits when it's mounted. But again, got loads of photographs of those. Don't know what these are, but it all just looks like it's come up really nicely. That's probably, I think, the water bottle. There are the clips for the steering column. They were sort of probably chrome, but again thought to save them, let's get them black. So they clip around the steering column and attach onto all these sorts of things. And these I think, if I remember, were one of the last things I took off the chassis. Up here, they go there somewhere. But okay, again, got loads of photographs. These things, these hold the dashboard up onto the chassis. So I remember one of those was really on the point of breaking, but that's that one. I'll see if I can get that just straightened, but didn't know if I could even salvage that. That's pretty much felt like it was going to break in half. So I'll pack all these bits up. Thought I'd just get all them done while I was going down there. That, I think, is the thing that holds the bonnet lid up. Whatever that's called. So yeah, that's all looking really nice. And then for the front suspension, all looks a little bit more meagre this end. These are the things that the arms bolt on here, and the arms go down and join onto these pans, so they've come up nicely. They look good. So 2 pans and 2 of these swivel arms, and I did have the springs done because they measured up absolutely fine, a bit like the rear leaves springs. So I thought I'll get them done. Use the original ones. I think they were done at some point, so they're nice. These are silver things. I've got some new ones. They just didn't look right, and they were covered in rust. So, although they've been powder coated, I think they will be replaced. And then these little things go up underneath the front cross member here with those little holes, and then the spring locates into them so it doesn't slip. So they've been done. So that is, I think, all the powder coating done. So, as my grandmother would have said, they're no good lying down there on the floor, get them on the car. It's a bit like when you tip a box of Lego onto a tray, isn't it? Except this hasn't come with a book of instructions, really. Right, let's start putting it back together.